traveling because I was working in an industry that was travel for a long time.
You mean the racing industry?
I did, yes.
Are we not talking about the racing?
Well, of course we can talk about it.
Anyway.
I was in race cars for so long, which surprises everybody that meets me like, really? I did university studying via correspondence, which was before the internet, right?
Yeah.
So I was like filling in the papers and doing this, doing the studies and doing the essays and mailing them and waiting for my results to come back via the mail.
And that was through Arizona?
No, that was in Pennsylvania. Okay. So I went through the University of Scranton. But now, and at the time, I remembered, I remember thinking, this is weird and nobody's going to think this is legitimate. Like, I'm going to get a degree in accounting is what I was studying, and nobody's going to think it's legit. And it now that's the thing. It's
really
just online as
what,
opposed to mail.
It's changed to what you can do for me and not necessarily where it came from, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, confidence is really as much as the pedigree nowadays.
So the work that you do, I was reading something, and of course actually, I'm just looking at my notes here. There's one thing I really want to touch into, but in our climate right now, and we don't have to get political, but there's a lot of purpose-driven work starting to come out, and it literally gives me all the feels that there are people like yourself, and you are working with, you could say, purpose-driven leaders, right? So there's two components to that. How great is it that not only are we educating in whatever manner the people who are being led, but now there's a real focus on actually educating the leaders to do it, and to do it in a purpose-driven manner. Yeah. And I just can't express enough how I can appreciate that, and how I feel like what an amazing thing that you're doing, but many people are starting to focus, like, let's put some purpose behind what we're doing. Let's just not do it for the sake of doing it. But so tell us a little bit about your program. I mean, what you can.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk for an hour about my program. So.
We got the time.
I'm geeking out on it. I really am. I'm not just about all the online dating. I'm definitely about that.
I want to know about the program.
Well, that's. I mean, like I said, I've grown up in the nonprofit sector for the most part. I started working when I was 12, and it hasn't always been nonprofit, but that's been where my heart has been. And what's been a really interesting piece of the program right now is that 75% of our fellows have come from the nonprofit sector, and the other 25% are other. And so I've got currently somebody that's working in DC Public Health, and I've got somebody from Abbott Healthcare, which is like this massive conglomerate, right? And she identifies as purpose-driven, and she is at Abbott because it's a healthcare organization that is like helping people. And so it
fits with their mission, right?
Yeah. So putting the frame on how do you show up when you are doing something other than just trying to make dollars,
right?
And that you're trying to make the world better. So there's a lot of different kind of interpretations of that. So the program, I mean, just very high level. We think about the curriculum in 3 concentric circles. The first is really about leading yourself. What are the things that you need to do to be to have integrity, to be grounded, and then really to be able to sustain leadership over the long term. So burnout is a huge issue. It's really a significant issue in the nonprofit sector or other sectors that are sort of resource constrained or in a scarcity mindset. So there's a lot of turnover in that space. So we focus a lot on that. And the second circle is about leading others. So you start with leading self, and then you go on to leading others. And what does it mean to really put yourself in the shoes of people? So if we're talking about change management, we're talking less about like how do you implement change and how do you understand how the change is impacting people so that you can be more effective in making that change happen. And then the last is really about leading organizations and what are the things you need to do to be able to pull up and be high level and visionary and think about strategy and direction, not from the like, you can Google anything on McKinsey or Blue Ocean Strategies or other like kind of strategic planning frameworks, and we're trying to turn it on its head and say like, wait a second, creativity and innovation is what we need to be thinking about to solve the most complex challenges of that we're facing, right? So that's kind of the arc of the curriculum. Specifically, the program is 8 months. It we meet twice a month live, and everything is live online. It's not a pre-recorded course or anything like that. And that is part of what we're trying to do, is create connection, because there's a lot of, isolation in leadership. A lot of leaders will say, "Oh, it's so lonely at the top," and it doesn't.
What kind of technology do you use, like Zoom or something like that?
Yeah, so we use Zoom now. We did not start with Zoom. We started with like all the bells and whistles. We started with a Blackboard platform.
Oh, gotcha, the whole thing. Yeah,
which was much more expensive, more expensive.
It gets expensive fast.
Yeah. And there were some things I liked better about it than Zoom, but frankly, at the end of the day, Zoom is a more stable platform for us. But it's not perfect. And so there are times where I'm like, all right. Usually when something like goes wrong with anything in life, I'm like, oh shit, I got to fix this. Like, I didn't like the director of my daughter's school for a long time. I'm like, oh, I got to go lead a school.
Like, oh, I got to create an online platform.
So that's like part of my like, oh, I must have like a hero or savior complex that I have to like keep in check.
Save the world.
Yeah. So we meet twice a month live. The first one is really kind of content focused, though it is highly interactive. So we're kind of presenting some concepts around a particular topic, and then the fellows are kind of interacting and engaging and doing exercises with one another about that. And then the second time, so that's everybody all together. And then the second time, fellows are broken into smaller peer groups of about 5 people, and they stay with those people throughout the 8 months. And so those are a sort of facilitated peer coaching model. And myself and my team. So the one thing I didn't say is that when I had my big flip charts on the wall in Guanajuato going crazy, I looked at what are my superpowers, what does the world need, blah, blah, blah. But the first thing I did was, who do I want to work with?
So much, yes.
I didn't even start with what do I want to do. I was like, who do I want to be with? And so I had a list of about 20 people, and I selected 5 off the top and asked them to join my team and like take this leap with me. And they're all people I've worked with and worked very closely with. And I was very clear that I did not want to build a company that was based on me. I did not want to be... I knew so many like small business owners and entrepreneurs that were like, I can't leave, I can't go on vacation, everything will collapse. And I'm like, oh no, that's not what I want.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, I'm going to do a few things and then I'm going to leave and you all are going to do it. And then when you can't do it, there's going to be more of us that like, we're going to like have each other's backs so that we can all live the lives that we want to live. Right. So I've got this really close team. They're like my people. And our special sauce is really about creating safe spaces where people go deep and get vulnerable and real really fast. Yeah. Like to them, a lot of them, it's shockingly fast how quickly they're like letting down and sharing.
God, we're not going to do any of that today, are we?
No, we're not. But that happened to me. I was able to. I was a part of a group. I went to. I don't know. I'm going to just take a sidestep really quick because that just reminded me when I was 6 months postpartum with my son and I was still nursing, and I really hadn't actually interacted with anybody outside of my family really. And I had an entire career of like, I don't know, traveling and working with
isolating.
It was very, right. I didn't realize I had felt isolated until one day a friend of mine reached out. She was a new friend, but she's a coach, and actually it's funny, she released a book last year and it's sitting up on our counter right there, and she's somebody I think that you should meet.
Yeah.
Anyway, she had invited me to a workshop and I was like, yes.
People.
I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what it is, but
is there wine?
It was, I don't even think I cared about that. I just was like a day out of the house. Okay. The first panic was like, I'm still breastfeeding. I don't even know how I'm going to handle that, but then just get me out of the house. 10 minutes in, literally 10 minutes in, I'm bawling my eyes out and more vulnerable than I had been and in my entire life. Just having that space and having somebody lead a group of people who can lead you into that space is just priceless. Yeah. And I wish everybody could just do that.
Yeah. That takes way too much trust.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not a very trusting person. That's the thing. Naturally, I tend to be like very arm's length with people. Not naturally. I shouldn't say that's not a natural thing for me. That's a learned thing for me based on experiences. I wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't. I walked in thinking, I don't know, I'm going to go to a workshop and learn how to, who knew? Like, I didn't even know if it's like, could be underwater basket weaving or something, whatever. And 10 minutes
that would be
I'm
a cool workshop.
Holy crap, what just happened? I just lost my shit in front of 25 people that I've never met before and felt the safest I had ever felt in my life.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So great.
Talk
so
about
special.
getting vulnerable
Humans
really fast.
Desire connection.
Yeah.
And they desire the space to feel safe to connect. And so when we can do that, it allows people a space to grow.
Right.
Because when you're, I mean, probably you were holding on to so much stuff that you didn't even realize you were holding on to, but that usually blocks our ability to progress and move forward. Right.
Yeah. So good that you can do that in an online environment as well.
Yeah.
Like, because that definitely has to be challenging.
I had a fellow text me, this was maybe 2 months ago. So the program had just been in the current program had just been in swing for a few months. And he texted me and said, "Can you talk?" And I was like,
oh no.
Oh. And this is the first cohort that I'm in. I said yes to a long-term deep consulting engagement that is taking a good amount of my time right now. So my team is leading 70% of this cohort, and I have not been it. And I was like, oh God, it was too soon. And yet I trust them 1,000,000%, and which there is no such thing as 1,000,000%. But anyway, I trust them inherently. And so, I was freaking out, and he said, I don't know what is going on. This is like a pretty together guy. He's like, I don't know how you did this. And I didn't do it because it was somebody else.
Yeah, blame it on me, man.
No, but he was like, I don't know how you did this, but this is the most amazing thing that I've ever experienced in my professional career. This group is coming together, and brilliance is coming out of us. And I don't think we all knew that we could help each other so much. And, the connections that we're creating. And he was effusive, and I was like, oh,
thank God. Something didn't go wrong. That's the power of that. The mastermind type of mentality is we do a very small version of that here at Keller Street. And it's amazing that what happens when everybody's at the table supporting you and pushing you and making you accountable and throwing ideas. And what's great about here is that everybody has a different modality. Everybody has something different that they're good at.
You get lots of different perspectives.
And so you get perspectives that you would never consider because, you're not what this guy is and you're not what that girl is. And so, how great is that? So good. Congrats that you got that.
Yeah. I was like, oh God. And this was somebody that I, kind of knew already. And so his opinion mattered a lot. And I was, fairly
awesome.
anxious.
Yeah, that must have felt really good. So you kind of led a little bit of a breadcrumb trail about potentially movement and outside of Petaluma or something like that. Is this something that is... what phase of this consideration are you in? I don't know. We totally can.
No, we're very public.
Or we don't have to.
No, we're very public about it.
Yeah.
Especially given that we thought we would be already gone by this time.
Is this my water?
Really? That is your water.
Okay, good.
So we, when we came back from all of our travels, we came back with the intention of it being temporary. We didn't want to stay in Petaluma. And like I said, we would have stayed in Mexico, but the schooling was not sort of at the level that we had wanted. But we didn't quite know where else to go. We looked at Colombia, and that was also like basically unless you are connected to somebody in the mafia or the Escobar family, you can't get into. I mean, Colombia is actually really safe now, but you can't get into a good school without like really strong connections. And so I was like, have a couple Colombian friends. I'm like, hey, any chance like,
6 degrees of separation.
You have any like sway here? I know you haven't been back to Colombia for a decade, but so a number of places